All praises to Yah, the Most High, the Elohim of Abraham, the fear of Isaac, and the mighty one of Jacob. I am excited today because I have a video that I want to present that I think is going to bring a lot of clarity to a popular topic about animal sacrifices. So let's dive right in. Today is May the 20th, 2024, and this is part one of a two-part series on animal sacrifice. And for this video, we will answer 5 crucial questions about the origin of animal sacrifice. Question number 1, what is animal sacrifice? Question number 2, was animal sacrifice part of the Creator's original design? Number 3, how and when did animal sacrifice begin? Number 4, is there a relationship between disobedience and animal sacrifice? And number 5, why did Yah permit the Israelites to do animal sacrifices? So the first question is, what is animal sacrifice? The word sacrifice appears 458 times in Brenton's Septuagint and 182 times in the Old Testament of the KJV. There are 8 Hebrew words that are translated as sacrifice, but only one of them is a verb. And since we know that we are interested in the practice or activity of sacrificing animals, we will focus on the one that is a verb, and that word is H2076, zabah. Now, the Hebrew verb zabah is used 134 times in Scripture, and it means to slaughter, kill, sacrifice. It is used to describe slaughtering animals to sacrifice them, as well as to eat them. It is also used to describe divine judgment. This word can be found in 24 books of the Old Testament, also known as the Holy Scriptures. You can find the bulk of the references to this word, zabah, in Exodus, Deuteronomy, 1 Samuel, 1 Kings, and 2 Chronicles. The first use of this word in the Holy Scriptures is found in Genesis 31 and 54. So let's read this verse in the Septuagint and the KJV. The Septuagint says that he, Jacob, offered a sacrifice in the mountain and called his brethren, and they ate and drank and slept in the mountain. The KJV says, then Jacob offered sacrifice upon the mount and called his brethren to eat bread, and they did eat bread and tarried all night in the mount. So it's clear by this passage that this was the slaughtering of an animal for food. Now let's look at Genesis 46 and 1. This is the second use of the verb zabah in the Holy Scriptures. And in this verse, it also says that Israel, also known as Jacob, offered a sacrifice. But this time, the purpose for slaughtering the animal was to offer it to Yah. So our forefather Jacob, also known as Israel, has taught us 2 reasons that he slaughtered animals. Number 1, to eat them. And number 2, to sacrifice them to Yah. Now let's move on to question 2. Was animal sacrifice part of Yah's original design for his people? The answer to this question is no. For evidence, we travel back to the Garden of Eden. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 28, Yah blessed the man and woman, and he told them to increase and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. So that means that Yah wanted them to go and have babies and have dominion over the fish of the seas and the flying creatures of heaven and all cattle and all the earth and all the reptiles that creep on the earth. The man and woman were not told to eat them, nor to use them for worship. In fact, it was not on the menu of things they were to eat. And you can find that menu in Genesis chapter 1, verse 29. Yah told the man and the woman that they were to eat herbs that bear seeds and fruit that has seeds. That's it. And Yah told the man and the woman that the wild beasts and the flying creatures and the reptiles were supposed to eat every green plant. That was Yah's original design. There was no killing animals for food or worship. Now here's some scriptural evidence that proves that animal sacrifice was not Yah's original design. Let's read Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1, verses 13 to 15. It says, "For God made not death, neither has he pleasure in the destruction of the living. For he created all things, that they might have their being, and the generations of the world were healthful, and there is no poison of destruction in them, nor kingdom of death upon the earth, for righteousness is immortal." Now, if animal sacrifice is not part of Yah's original design, and yet we know that our forefathers slaughtered animals for food and worship, then we must ask ourselves, when did animal sacrifice, also known as the slaughtering of animals, begin, and why? And to answer this question, we need to walk through a series of events where we will discover when was the first animal killed, who slaughtered it, why, and what were the circumstances that allowed the kingdom of death to enter the planet of Earth, who opened the door, and how did it gain entrance. When was the first animal slaughtered? The first animal or living being sentenced to death was Adam, the one made in Yah's image, the one whom he gave dominion over all other animals. The most important thing in the Garden of Eden was sentenced to die. At that point, do you think it mattered if a squirrel or a hippo or a rhinoceros died? Do you think Yah was saying to himself, I don't want to kill anything? Absolutely not. Adam's death was a divine judgment, which is another meaning of zabah. So after Adam chose death, the kingdom of death entered into the earth. The door was left wide open. Now let's find some scriptural evidence for the kingdom of death. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1, verses 13 to 15 says, "For God made not death, neither has he pleasure in the destruction of the living. For he created all things that they might have their being, and the generations of the world were healthful, and there is no poison of destruction in them, nor kingdom of death upon the earth, for righteousness is immortal." Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, verses 24 to 25 says, "For God created man to be immortal and made him to be an image of his own eternity. Nevertheless, through the envy of the devil came death into the world, and they that are of his side do find it." So we see that there was originally no death planned for any of Yah's creatures. The original plan was obedience, tree of life, and immortality. The only thing that was to be eaten was plants and fruit. And as long as the humans obeyed the Most High, the animals and everything else was safe. But we didn't obey, and this meant that nothing on earth was safe from the kingdom of death. Nothing. And while we are so focused on whether or not animal sacrifice is good or not, we forget that we were the first sacrifice. We were sentenced to death, and it's our fault that everything that Yah gave us dominion over must now die. So that brings me to the last question. Why did Yah permit the Israelites to do animal sacrifices? The same reason he permitted us to die. Because we didn't choose him. And now everything that is alive suffers. We were in charge of the earth. We failed at our job. We allowed the enemy to persuade us to be disobedient to Yah. And through the envy of the devil came death into the world, and they that are of his side do find it. We allowed death into the world. We forsook Yah's original plan. So now we are on a crooked path. All of humanity exists outside of Yah's original design. He did not originally intend for men to work by the sweat of their brow. He did not intend for women to have sorrow in childbirth. He did not intend for men to rule over women. He did not intend for humans to die. So why are we so focused on animal sacrifices? We are missing the mountain for the molehill. And while we are on this crooked path with pain during childbirth and working by the sweat of our brow and animal sacrifices and men ruling over women, Yah is still with us. So in the next video, I will cover what will happen with animal sacrifice in the future.